Hey guys, I don't want you guys panicking because of all the firearm laws that they keep trying to shove through. They want you to panic because when you panic, then you tend to make compromises to get the big bully off of your back. There's no compromising our rights. There never has been, and you can't start now. I want you guys to please, I'm going to put a link in here for a home study thing to go study the Constitution, because if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And that's why everybody's running around like chickens with their head cut off and not knowing what to do or how to fight this. But one of the problems we have up there in D.C. is the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court, now they're supposed to be going by the Constitution. They only know what they studied. When they went to law school, they didn't study the Constitution. They only studied what other judges said about the Constitution. And you can see for yourself right now how politically motivated these people on the Supreme Court justice system is. You know, you can't base something on what a judge said if he is politically motivated to do something else. He is not going by the Constitution whatsoever. He's going by his own whims. You've got to go by the Constitution. All the opinions on this should be based on the Constitution, not upon another judge. You can't make the judge the law. The Constitution is the law, period. Now, I want you to look around when you get a chance to look in your Constitution. You're going to find out that the Congress has no authority to even pass laws. Never has, never. It's the way it is. They never had jurisdiction. Okay? All your rights come from God, and they're unalienable. Okay? The Second Amendment to our federal Constitution recognizes that this God-given right to keep and bear arms is to be free from any interference whatsoever from the federal government. Now, this is coming from Pluribus Hudis blog. Okay, it's called Understanding the Constitution. Accordingly, the federal government is nowhere in the Constitution granted authority to abridge, restrict, or infringe in any fashion whatsoever your guns or your ammunition. Thus, all restrictive laws made by Congress and all regulations made by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are unconstitutional as being outside the scope of powers granted to Congress and to the executive branch of our Constitution. Restrictions of arms and ammunition is not one of the enumerated powers. Enumerated means the ones that are listed in the Constitution. There's not one enumerated power delegated to Congress or the executive branch. Now, something else, they've been putting all these firearm laws, in case you didn't know it, under the Commerce Clause because, like I said, they don't have the constitutional authority to pass any firearm laws. Now, the 1934 law was put under the Internal Revenue Code. And then after that, you know, they started putting it under the Commerce Clause. And they have no authority to do that under the Commerce Clause. Commerce Clause was a power given to Congress to regulate commerce among the states. It was meant primarily to restrain the state power to ensure the free flow of goods. Now, back in the day, why they put that Commerce Clause in there, because all the different states were adding extra taxes and tariffs to the goods flowing through their state. You know, how a politician wants to pad your pocket. Ah, get a little money here, a little money there. Same thing. Now, if you look in any kind of law, it's the best evidence the best evidence rule is a rule of evidence that requires an original document, photograph, or another piece of evidence to be introduced into the court to prove the contents of the same item. Now, if the Supreme Court would look it up, or any judge in this land would look it up, The Federalist Papers, number 22 and 42, explains what commerce is. It's to stop the different states from adding taxes and tariffs to the goods. Period. That's all it meant. It's the original intent. Now, how many times, I mean, if you read the Constitution, I've said this before, under your Second Amendment, you know, about the infringe, you know, they cannot infringe upon your constitutional rights. It was put in there for a reason. If you look, there's no A, B, C, D subparagraph that would stipulate what an acceptable infringement would be. Therefore, all infringement are forbidden. You know, like I said, these judges do not know the Constitution, and that's the law. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. If it's not in agreement with the Constitution, it's null and void. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Madison versus Marbury. Where what rights are secured by the Constitution, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would arbitrate them. That's Miranda versus Arizona. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, affords no protection, it creates no office, it is a legal contemplation as inoperable as though it had never been passed. Norton versus Shelby. The general rule is an unconstitutional statute, although having a form in the name of law, is in reality no law. It is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since unconstitutionally dates from the time of its enactment, and not merely from the date of branding it. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. That's 16 Jurisprudence 2nd 177 2D section 259. Like I said, they do not have the constitutional authority to pass any laws. You look it up. You look it up. If you look at some of these laws they've been passed, I'm going to read something here. This comes from original intent, restoring the Republic one citizen at a time. Anyway, it says, where does the federal government get its constitutional authority to enact laws such as the National Firearm Act, which has been codified to Chapter 44 of Title 18 of the United States Code? Upon whom are such laws operable and where? Since a careful reading of the Constitution reveals that the federal government has no specific delegated authority to regulate firearms, where does the federal government authority to regulate firearms come from? And that's what I was trying to tell you about them sticking it under the Commerce Clause. To have a constitutional ruling on our right to keep and bear arms and all these other unconstitutional laws, they must go by the original intent of the Constitution. And if you have the original papers, or you got the Federalist Papers, and you have your Declaration of Independence. That was this stuff was, you know, before everything was ratified in 1791. Now, if these people in the Supreme Court and the other judges cannot read this, you better point it out to them fast and proper, because that's why they want you running scared. And the more scared you are, like I said, the more compromises you'll make to get the bad guys off your back. And you can't do this. You can't. What bothers me is, you know, the Congress, what they're doing is appropriating state police powers under the guise of regulating commerce. Period. I'll read that again. Congress is appropriating state police powers under the guise of regulating commerce. And Commerce Clause is not a grant of general police power. Period. Okay guys, I just wanted to run this through to wise you up a little bit. I don't want you panicking, because when you panic, like I said, then you make compromises that it's kind of like karma. It's going to come back and get you. You don't want that. I'll zoom in on this just a little bit. Tell them to leave our rights alone. Thanks for watching, guys, but like I said, do not panic. Do not. I'll put a link in the description. I want you to go to that lady's blog and read it. This lady knows the Constitution backward, forward, inside out. You need that kind of help now. You don't go to war with anybody until you have been trained. Train yourself and do it as quickly as possible. The more people that know about the Constitution, you can put these buggers in their place. It's either that or we hang them. Okay? Thanks for watching.